And we're free falling. Oh wait, are we gonna get demonetized now? No.
Only if they detect. Only if the singing is actually worth them detecting, which I don't think that was that.
Did you think of that song when you were making the title today?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit,
Yeah.
but that
Okay.
I mean, it's just easy target because it's been free falling. It's been a tough, pretty tough last couple weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, free falling, free balling, all of that good stuff, you know.
What's free balling? Do you mind elaborating that a little bit?
You know, when you don't wear any of those panties, yeah.
I don't wear panties. I'm a cat. I just
Well, then
have
there you go.
I have free
There you
balling all the time.
go. Fantastic.
I don't know what else to say. I think like we're both pretty high time frame bullish, and we are into some pretty high beta stuff, and a lot of high beta stuff just been kind of decimated over the last couple of weeks, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, isn't everything high beta now? Really? Like everything is every you could have a bear market in one day and a bull market the next.
Yeah, well, except for a few things, except for like the Japanese market just hasn't moved for a whole year, and then nobody pays attention to it anymore. Besides August of 2024. But anyway, uh, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about some macro stuff. I think it's important to kind of start. I'm gonna go through a few charts here. I'm gonna let Matt speak, kind of dispute everything, although he never does. I don't know why. Like I feel like
I'll be on a mission right now.
yeah, well, part of the problem I think we have is because we're such an echo chamber, so that's why we fail, But we need more bears, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I got a Gann chart here. It's drawn 360/20 on the SPX since the Great Financial Crisis. Pretty good market symmetry. These arc here means something all the way up here, even horizontal here. It's pretty much the top of the 2021, 2022, came back all the way back down, back test the arc here and just kind of pushed through the horizontal. Now, didn't really spend too much time here in the arc. We did end up pushing through it. I suppose we ended up getting pretty close to back testing it. But now it's just kind of hanging out here. I guess you've been pointing out you've got like a pretty strong horizontal resistance zone over here for quite some time that's been trying to break out. So I guess on one hand, it's like, yeah, we've got some pretty strong resistance there in SPY, on SPX. Maybe there's some like rotation stuff that's going on underneath. And during the entire rotation process, it's just extremely volatile. And maybe SPY is not going to do very well moving forward. Who knows? But the only thing is, if I look at the RSI on the monthly, it just looks like it had a breakout of this, kind of this negative trend line over here, and basically just been doing back test after back test almost perfectly, right? So I don't know what any of these means. It did break an arc. I think naturally it might end up just grabbing up to the next level, but I'm not that necessarily that bearish on the market. I mean, can it break down underneath? Yeah, I mean, RSI trend line doesn't really mean squat necessarily, but it's just kind of interesting that it's been bouncing off that level pretty decently. So we'll see what the market does. It really, honestly, SPY just haven't really done anything for February. What's really been destroyed is really like the stuff that's underneath of it. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. This is the QQQ over SPY chart, and you can see that really ever since the dot-com bubble, where QQQ has just got decimated because Nasdaq got decimated. Really, it's just been going up on a straight line ever since. If you do it on a little bit of a, I guess I'm doing a log scale, but it really just been going up on a straight line ever since, right? This is the spread between the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. In a bull market, which we've been on a macro bull market ever since really 2002, all the way up here on the macro bull market, you can see QQQ generally outperforms S&P 500, and that's certainly still the case right now. We have a little bit of a anomaly where during the really huge money printing era of 2020, it just pushed all the way up to like this crazy nut kind of place, right? And it just can't retrace all the way back. Where throughout the entire year 2022, the S&P 500 has been outperforming the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq dropped like 40%. The SPI only dropped like 20%. Right now, we've just been consolidating sideways here for about 2 years. The S&P 500 and the QQ has just been roughly kind of doing about the same. We've been consolidating sideways over here. And because we've been consolidating sideways over for about 20 months or so, we've got like this big Bollinger Band squeeze here. And right now, the QQQ over SP 500 spread is kind of on the upper part of the Bollinger Band here. So I would assume whenever this thing decides to blow up, it will probably have some further bullish continuation like it has done before the time before that and the time before that. Wherever it kind of becomes a little flat, it just back tests, it just keeps going up, up, up. So I wonder whether or not we're at the juncture where we're going to end up having further macro bull market where Nasdaq's going to end up continue to outperform S&P 500, which is actually a pretty bullish signal here. What about the Russell? Right, Russell has just been absolutely decimated for February. You've been talking about how there's going to be a rotation, rotation, rotation. Well, the problem is when I'm looking at this is the spread of the Russell 2000 over SP 500. Russell 2000 is like the small cap stuff. SP 500 is more large cap stuff. And it's not always true that the small cap always underperforms the large cap. It's been outperforming large caps for over like a decade and a half, really ever since the dot-com bubble. The small caps actually done extremely well until it ran into a bearish divergence, and that's when you actually end up having underperformance of the small caps against large caps for about a decade and a half. And then now you're getting to the point where you're having a lot more bullish divergence that's been building for about like 5 years, and right now, yeah, you got a pretty bad Russell 2000 performance against the SP 500, but still, like all of this stuff still happening on bullish divergence, right? So it does make you wonder what's going to happen next. Are we just having a little bit more of a scare before going up? Maybe. If you're looking at the IWM, which is the Russell 2000, the small cap, this is probably the most sensitive to global liquidity. Global liquidity is down here underneath right here. You can see how every single time where you have a cycle, and you can see cycles over here too on the IWM, cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, and right now we might be beginning another cycle over here. Every single time when there's a macro bear market, the IWM Russell 2000 just sucks, does nothing when global liquidity just kind of going sideways. Even when it breaks above and back tests, it still does nothing, right? But whenever it's done back testing, that's when you have this big lick up of the global liquidity. That's when the Russell 2000 actually end up going up, right? A lot of the risk on assets would go up along with it. And next thing you know, you got global liquidity kind of stuck in range here. It does nothing, even plummets during COVID during this back test over here. And then when it goes up, it just moons over here, and everything else, like all the high beta assets, just keeps on going up to the moon together with it, right? What's happening right now? Well, we just had our back test over here, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just lagging. I have no idea. Looks like global liquidity is going up, right? Maybe we're just still getting a little bit ready here, although certainly over the last couple of months, IWM has been looking absolutely terrible. But I still think that overall on like a macro, like a higher time frame kind of thing, it's just still doing what it's supposed to. This still looks like a big giant cup, and this still looks like a handle, right? So honestly, if you're kind of looking at a higher time frame, it doesn't really matter unless you be like over leverage in the short term and just do these crazy things because you need to make money tomorrow. Then you're going to end up losing a lot of money today. I don't know. I'm gonna pause here, man, because I just want to talk about index. I can talk about like the U.S. dollar yields and like Chinese market, but I just want to like ask you what you think about the overall market. What do you think? Like, is the rotation happening, man? Like, what's going on?
Well, I have some interesting like different fibs that I've been playing around with for the SPY. And the first one, everybody knows from the morning live show with the tracker that this fib right here, it's a support, right? The 1.618, the 585.38. And if you look at monthly candles here, you can see that every single month since it broke out has been closing above it. Even this one right here, it closed at 586.08. So every single month has been closing above this fib. So I don't think it's really ready to collapse. If anything, I think it's like building a slow and long base to eventually do something. But then I have like another interesting fib from way back here. So that 585 is your support. But then if we just pull one of these fibs right back in time from the high to the low here, you can see the resistance is coming soon, right? So at the 626. So I think it could just literally be stuck in that range for a while, perhaps while there's a rotation going on into maybe IWM, into other things and stuff like that. So I think the potential to just be stuck in a range for a while does exist because it had a massive move already. Barely any kind of down months, really. Like there were some red candles, but the trend was really high. There's really no lower high ever set. Like since 2023 of October, there's really no lower high. Like this was the last lower high that really was set back in October of 2023. So it's been a year and a half essentially of just straight up for SPY. And that leads me to think that perhaps the IWM right here could be ready to do something, right? Could be perhaps ready to uh let's go let's go to the weekly chart first. Perhaps it's ready to get close to the cloud, maybe touch the cloud for the first time. It's still never even touched the cloud since it broke out in November of 2023. Today was actually the first day that it did go through the 50-week moving average. Since it broke out in November, it never touched it once. And today was that perfect back test. So I'm kind of looking for this zone to hold now. I wanted this 786 to break so bad, but it just did not care, did not want to, was not ready. But the market structure is fine. It's building higher highs, higher lows, and it touched the 50-week for the first time. So it's great. And then we go to the monthly indicators, and then we look at the monthly conversion line. And they're like, oh no, it's starting to close below the monthly conversion line. That's not good. Like there's only 2.5 days, 3 trading days left for the month. So is it going to be the first monthly candle that closes below the conversion line since it broke out in December of 2023? It could be, right? So we'll see. Unless like the next couple of days just have a huge explosion and this just turns into a wick and it closes back above to 2084. I guess it's not that big of an explosion. It's just like 5 points, 6 points. So it could do that. So yeah, I mean, there could be a rotation going on from SPY, QQQ into IWM, but it's got to maintain this momentum, I think, of the conversion line and not start to close below it in order for that to happen. So for everybody to know, the weekly candle close and the monthly candle close is on Friday. So 220.84 is what I'm going to be looking at for that IWM close. But I mean, it's kind of like I'm scratching my head here, wondering what the heck IWM is going to do, because this huge bearish candle here, followed by breaking some support levels, I just don't know. But the weekly chart, it looks fine. What say you, Kat?
I honestly think that the only thing that really matters is global liquidity. The way
Yeah.
I view the entire market kind of happening is things run in cycles, and the Russell 2000, the small caps, are going to be like the most economically sensitive to all of that. So if there's going to be some uncertainty short term, but overall long term, it seems like, as I was kind of showing, that the global liquidity is breaking out and back tested already. You know, it looks like it wants to continue to go up to the upside, like it did time and time again. Then I think IWM should do well in whatever technical levels that end up breaking below. Maybe just one of those liquidity grab. I mean, like, can you imagine how bad COVID was? You know, and next thing you know, it just didn't care. I think there were some scares that they've been throwing at the market one after another, like COVID 2.0, tariffs 2.0. Like over the last couple of weeks, it's just been one thing after another, right? So maybe we're kind of getting ready. It does look like liquidity wants to keep going up, and I can show some of the reasons to why I think that is.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I just don't know. I'm not sure whether or not I really care about like the short term thing, you know, because as I was kind of showing you too, if this thing loads here. Okay, I don't know what it's doing. My internet's terrible. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the XY here. A lot of people ask me about the XY. It keeps on going up. Doesn't mean that, you know, we're going to keep on having worsened market here, because if the US dollar is strong, that's bad, right? Well, you just purely look at a technical area here. Yeah, it does look pretty bad, doesn't it? Looks like the XY is going to keep going up, because it looks like it's just kind of back testing this zone over here after a breakout, right? If you look at Ichimoku, it even looks like it's just going to get a lot of support down here below. It just wants to look at wants the moon, right? The only thing I have against that would be like this is a morning star look to it. So actually, this looks bearish to me. Looks like it wants to have some bearish continuation. Kind of like this trident over here too. These are kind of bearish formation. I think US dollar probably wants to drop. The reason why I say that is because like here I'm showing you three different cycles in here, right? The US dollar, big cycle here for US dollar, big cycle here for US dollar, big cycle over here US dollar. Whenever you have the global liquidity breakout and back test, like on the back test itself, you always have the US dollar just peaking, get everybody all scared, right? Like January 2017 to December 2016, that's when you had the global liquidity like breakout and back test, right? Everybody's like super scared. That was a relatively bearish part of the market. And that was really like the scare that you need to really have global liquidity just kind of go up and US dollar just kind of plummeted, right? Same thing over here. Same thing happens over and over again. You have a breakout global liquidity and a back test. And during this back test was in March of 2020 when the US dollar actually kind of went up and went all the way up, right? Everybody got super scared. The next thing you know, global liquidity rises and the US dollar dropped, right? Here we kind of have the same thing. Where did it end up peaking here? It ended up peaking maybe around like January 2025. Not exactly at the back test, but close enough, right? So it just makes me wonder when we're going to have a very, very similar kind of thing here that's going to happen. If everybody's kind of focusing on the 2-year and 10-year yield, actually no, everybody's been focusing on the Fed and trying to figure out like, are you going to cut? Are you going to cut? I mean, I think one thing about looking at what the Fed does versus what the market actually does is like two completely separate things. Because if the Fed hasn't really done anything for a very, very long time, the Fed started cutting rates in September of 2024. And that's actually when, like, as soon as the Fed decided to cut rates, yields actually went up. Like, you actually have some quantitative tightening, actually, but in real time for the market. Yields actually end up spiking after the Fed cuts, because it's been plummeting for like 5 months in a row. They've been expecting the Fed to cut for like 5 months in a row before that, right? So I actually don't really believe in looking at what the Fed funds rate is. I want to look at leading indicators, which are going to be the 2-year and 10-year, and they look extremely weak. Look at a Bollinger Band here, looking at the 2-year yield. It looks like it's just been hovering around here. It's just having a hard time kind of break above. Looks like it wants to break down, right? If it breaks down, where's it going to go? Well, it could break down to the cloud here. You can see how you have a bearish cross. You just couldn't get over the kitchen over here. It looks like it just wants to plummet down, right? It's just a matter of time. And yields have been pretty weak too during this pullback here for the last couple of weeks. It's just actually been like plummeting down, right? Both the 2-year and the 10-year. 10-year looks a little bit stronger, but it also had that little evening star look to it. It looks like it's just kind of like really, really weak, right? It's just hovering around a weakening, flattening 20-month moving average. It looks like I kind of want to drop underneath. If you look at the Ichimoku, it's still about the conversion of the base, but they're contracted, so it looks like the trend's a little bit exhausted here. So eventually, if it breaks down, it could break down maybe somewhere around like 3.6% for the 10-year, maybe 2-year might break down to like 3.4, 3.3%. And that's going to be like theoretically, it's going to be bullish for the market because of quantitative easing and all that. I can talk about China, but I just want to like maybe take a break and kind of want to see what your thoughts are in terms of like the US dollar yields and all that stuff. I think if the yields are going down and global liquidity is going up, I just have a hard time seeing like the IWM not doing well,
Well, I hear all the narratives out there, and everybody's saying if they don't start lowering rates, the market's going to collapse because Europe's already in a recession, and if inflation comes back, then the rate cuts could also not work, and all of this. Like, these are all the narratives that I hear all the time now on X or just wherever I go. Even in real life, I hear the same stuff too. And what do you have to say for that, Kat?
I say that the Fed, what they actually do is very, very lagging because the market's already trying to front run it. Because let me see if I can even pull up the Fed's funds rate here. If my thing works here. Anyway, you can keep talking.
No, go ahead. There we go.
You can see how the Fed does nothing from August 2023 all the way to like August 2024. They they really stayed higher for longer. They did nothing, right? The rates is around like 5.35%. But the reality is that the 10-year doesn't care. Like, whenever they started cutting rates in like September 2024, the 10-year is already ahead of it. It already dropped down, like plummeted down from like 4.7% all the way down to like 3.6%. It already peaked back in October 2023, right? What happened in October 2023? The Fed, it was like kind of at the peak right there, and it's just ended up staying right there for like a whole year, right? But the 10-year doesn't care. It just ended up just going down like by almost like a 1.5 percentage point, right? And then whenever the Fed decides to cut, it's right here, and that's when you actually have the 10-year actually bottom and actually shot up from there, right? And whenever the Fed says, "Oh, we're going to hold cutting, we're not going to cut anymore," that's when you start having like the 10-year kind of going down a little bit, right? So I'm just saying, like, I think the entire thing is just a little bit of a bull, if you will. It doesn't really matter what the Fed says; it matters what the market does, right? If you also look at mortgage rates here, you can also see that mortgage rates have also peaked around October 2023, and it was like 8%, right? Right now, it's like dropped to like around 6.8%. So there's a pretty significant drop over here that goes on with the 10-year. So I think the market's already front running the Fed. It doesn't really matter. I don't think that the Fed has to do anything. They just let the market do its thing. Yeah.
But what about like there's cracks starting to form maybe in the real estate market, or like Tesla had abysmal numbers in Europe. Like, isn't this a warning signs that people aren't spending anymore?
I mean, like, if you're thinking about the whole narrative thing,
Mhm.
they've been talking about Europe being on a recession for how many years now? Like 2 years? I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
They've been talking about all these things for like so many years, and also been talking about China just absolutely like it's uninvestable. They've been talking about all this stuff for a very long time, right? I mean, granted, this is the European market matters, I guess, but the truth is, if you also let me see here, I also want to look at the U.S. the Europe um, M2 money supply. They're lagging a little bit, but they already made their all-time highs. Like they're printing money, you know. I just can't see them not doing well. Like if they really are worried about inflation, things like that, they wouldn't keep printing money to like all-time highs already. I think they're gonna be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I see it too is I think it's just a normal part of the cycle right now that it's time to instill panic, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
I think people just need to panic over something because price hasn't really been doing what they expected it to, and then the narratives just come afterwards, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the narrative for China right now, Matt? What do you think about that?
It's yeah, like you said, it's uninvestable. It's just it's gonna just collapse again. That was just a fake out, whatever.
Yeah, I remember
So
so many YouTube thumbnails talking about the great market crash because the China's housing market is going to crash and it's going to bring everything down along with it. So this is the Hang Seng Index. Without anything, you can see is really trying to break about the Ichimoku cloud over here, which is, it's a pretty strong move over here, right? Even without showing the Ichimoku, you can see how this is a higher high here compared to that. This is a higher high yet compared to that. This is a higher low compared to that. This whole thing right here looks like an Adam Eve bottom. This whole thing right here looks like a handle over here that we just broke out of. It looks like this thing just wants to keep going up. So the question is, how high is it going to go? I think it's hard for me to know for sure because I still don't know whether or not Chinese market is like really investable per se. It could still be not making any all-time highs anytime soon, right? But if the next like 6 to 12 months, if it ends up going up to this resistance zone over here around 0.76 and the trend line over here, that's a lot of gains for the Chinese market to make, and that can actually bring a lot of risk on sentiment here for the year 2025, right?
yeah.
If the Chinese market does well, I just have a hard time seeing U.S. market not doing well because every single time when the Chinese market does well, the U.S. market does really well. When the
Yeah.
Chinese market doesn't do very well, sometimes the US market can still do very well. But whenever the Chinese market does well, the US dollar does well. Like that happens almost every single time, right? So if the Chinese market is really becoming very, very strong over here, I think maybe the US market just been running a little bit too hard, and I think it just needs to kind of cool down here a little bit. But I just have a hard time seeing like the SP 500 after breaking through its resistance or what have you. So I find it hard for it to like not participate, I guess. Right. Um, I also like to look at the global liquidity, not just in terms of the global liquidity index. I also like to look at it from the context of Bitcoin, because a lot of people don't really understand Bitcoin, which I don't understand why they don't understand it, because there's really not much to understand. Like if they're printing money, it's going to Bitcoin. That's pretty much that's pretty much all there is to understand. Really, over the last 10 years, if they are printing money, if the liquidity cycle is bullish, then money's going to roll into Bitcoin, right? The last couple of really big move of Bitcoin, and this is why I don't think that Bitcoin's top. This is why I don't think like the market is top, is because the last couple of times when Bitcoin really ran hot was when the Chinese market ran really hot. Like the Chinese market ran really hot from like January 17th to January 18th, and that's when that big giant parabolic move of Bitcoin was happening, right? It was basically just running all of the Chinese liquidity. And the cycle before that, you had this 6 month of just run up from October 2020 to like April 2021. That was this doing this big peak over here for China, right? And right now we've been running pretty hot here over the last year or so, and we're getting even hotter. So I wonder whether or not this is just maybe a little bit of a fake out, maybe just trying to get you kind of thrown off sides, thinking that Bitcoin's over, when the reality is that it might potentially just be getting started. I don't know. I'm stupid though, Matt. Like, correct me.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of what I think about like the whole global macro whatever kind of thing. If you're into that kind of thing. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. We spent about like half an hour talking about macro, but I think it's important to put that into context, right? Because if you're in high beta assets, you see things are dropping like 30 or 40%. You want to make sure that your higher time frame are at least directionally correct, not over leverage, and then you can kind of figure out what you want to do after that. But I think it's important to kind of put things into a little bit of context here, so you don't get shaken out during a macro bull market when global liquidity is going up and things are still making higher highs and higher lows, and China's just started to print a lot of money. I don't. Did you see like the Chinese M1 thing?
Oh yeah, just like in Europe, but even more. Yeah.
Look at that! Like what the?
Yeah, they just like, here you go, boom. They just like what dropped it from like the sky.
Like what is this? The funny thing is, like I don't look at the M1 that much, but like the last time when I saw something like that was the US M1 during COVID.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I just find it to be pretty hard to be that bearish on a higher time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is going to be stimulus coming, and whether that's going to be in the form of like checks to the U.S. people from Trump, like what $5,000, what they were talking about. I mean, that would probably do pretty well for a stock market too, right? The last
Yeah.
time people got stimulus checks, the stock market
Yeah.
went crazy. So that could be one catalyst too. But I think no matter what, they're going to have to start printing more and more and more.
You know why I think the January US M2 um, print just got printed here on TradingView. You know why we're having some volatility is probably because of this.
Oh, it's flat
It's
almost. It's
flat,
not.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
this is like the back test of the global liquidity over here is finally showing up here, but it's almost breaking all-time highs. You know, I wonder if you do a fib, if you see it's stuck
No.
between the 0.76 and 0.86.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah. Anyway,
Bullish. It's above the 786. All right. Yes.
yeah, it's above the 786. Yeah. So I wonder whether or not it's just a big giant cup just, ready to make some all-time high stuff, but it's just consolidating sideways here a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. I mean, I'm done talking my macro stuff. I'm sure that people want to hear about like Tesla
Bitcoin.
hymns and Bitcoin and everything else. And
Yeah.
so
So I'll do a Bitcoin breakdown on my chart over here. And I've had this for a while. I've shown this on my screen for a long time. Every time I show the linear fibs right here, every single time we do this show, I show the linear fibs, and that 45-degree angle was always right in the middle there. And look what happened. It finally touched it today. So it's a perfect back test of a previous resistance breakout, and it finally touched it for the first time. And that's kind of like the trend that I've seen today. A lot of crypto touched the weekly cloud for the first time. IWM touched the 50-week moving average for the first time. Doge touched the 50-week moving average for the first time. A lot of first time things happened today in the market, which is kind of putting me or making me think that this is kind of a bottom, right? I don't want to like just jinx it, knock on wood, right? But I really think that what's happening in the market is kind of a liquidity grab. It's just doing what's necessary to touch its symmetrical support or get the liquidity below certain levels, and that's exactly what it's doing. So, speaking of the fibs, though, what I want to show you is this fib that I show all the time first, and that one, it finally is going deeper between the 91 and the 83. So does this mean that 83,000 has to be hit? I don't think it is necessary. And I think the reason why kind of lies with other fibs. And the other fibs right here is this one right here from the most recent high to the low. It's basically the 88.7, and that is just wicking through barely right now. And it actually recovered it a little bit earlier today as well. So I think it really has potential to close back above levels by the end of the week, by maybe even by Friday, the end of the month. So I'm just watching these levels closer and closer. And not only that, when you go to the log base fib right here for this, it's just back testing the 87, the 1.414, right? So this is something that has really good potential. There's a lot of confluence of support in all of the same range from 88 to 87 to 89 to 91. And when I go back to my linear GAN here, that 45-degree angle. So with all of this confluence combined with everything I saw today, back testing levels for the first time since they really broke out, it's kind of a big deal, I think. So really going to pay attention to that. And I think that this is a potential to be a bottoming process.
I think the most interesting thing that happened today with the Bitcoin crash or whatever you call it, the altcoins actually are holding pretty well.
Yeah. Almost all of them basically did nothing. And then you have like some like QNT quants, they actually were pretty green today, which is interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they might just be getting so destroyed that they're like, hey, and I think these kinds of liquidity grabs are probably perfect opportunity for rotations to happen.
yeah.
So
And speaking of altcoins, let's pull up that chart here. And I think you showed it on your X today too. Another back test of the cloud. It wasn't the first time, but it was the second touch in the same month. And that's actually a good development there too. So I can't really be too bearish on any of this stuff right here. And then you got more moving averages down there too, just in case it wants more liquidity. Yeah.
there's usually like some folks have like a concept whenever things just so viciously downtrend, they leave a wake. Sometimes they might just try to fill that wake with a candlestick. I guess that's kind of what it's doing right now for like
Yeah.
across altcoins. Because I think Doge did the same thing. Like they're just kind of feeling that weekly wake from back from the early February crash that was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
And speaking of like uh not meme coins, because you're talking about Doge. Then I saw somebody just type in the chat they only trade meme coins, and I was kind of bearish on Whiff for a while. And what Whiff did actually yesterday and today, it kind of surprised me too. Let me just go to this chart right here, and
That's not whiff.
that is. Oh, did I mean Whiff? Oh, I meant XRP.
This is a utility coin that's a vaporware that just happens to be a 0.86 fib. But anyway, go for it.
Yeah. So I was bearish on Whiff until it basically got back to the orange level down here. So it was a previous resistance, breakout, rejection, backtest. So now it completed its full rotation from level to level. So now I think it's kind of has room to go up again. So I was cautious on it ever since it broke below the angle and the arcs down here. And since then, it kind of recovered. But yeah, if since we were on XRP, I can show it. And XRP, it is really, really still trying to hold this 886, the 2.25877. So it spent a lot of time below it today, but guess what? It closed the day back above it, right? The day ended at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it closed the day back above it. We can go to the daily chart here and look at that. Ever since it kind of broke out right here on January 1st, 2025, it has closed every single daily candle above that 886. That's a pretty powerful trend, I think, over a month, almost 2 months, right? Almost 2 months of just closing above this level. And I think that's powerful. So we are going to watch it. I am going to watch it all the time. And whether or not it closes days or whatever below it, I don't think it changes too much, because when you look at the weekly chart here, all it's doing is building a solid base, whether that's on top of this. Let's go down here on top of that 886, or if it's on top of this baseline here at 194. I don't think it really matters. I think it's just buying some time to get closer to the Ichimoku cloud, perhaps, and then ready to go higher, maybe up to the $8 soon. I know I said $8-9 by March. I mean, March is coming soon, right? March 10th, I think I said. But we'll see. We'll see what can happen. But anything is possible, right? Especially the way all of these coins were holding support levels and how they reacted recently with the latest Bitcoin plunge. I think there could be some kind of surge for altcoins sooner than later. So I'll be on the lookout for that.
You still sticking with March 10th, huh?
Well, I like to speculate, but it's never a guarantee. People are like, well, you said March, Matt. It's not going to happen. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I can't control the market. I mean, if I could, I'd be a zillionaire, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Matt's made plenty of promises behind the scene with me that never get fulfilled. No, you don't want to know half of them, because it's it's
Well,
not
I mean,
PG-13. So.
like the two cats, one Matt, like in the photo, like that one. Like you created that photo, two cats, one Matt. I don't know what you're thinking with that one.
Oh boy! Okay.
In the thumbnail,
well,
you know.
we'll have to explain that one day. Trekker's not here, so he's not here to like how do you say that? Make it less weird. So, I have one chart I wanted to get your opinion on, and I have no stake in it at all. What do you think about Solana? It just looks destroyed.
So Solana, yeah, I was looking at that a lot, and I even made some posts about it, which were wrong. You know, they didn't come true. Let's go here. Turn on some indicators. I made some posts like, oh, it's backtesting the ARC, it's backtesting the 886 and the 50-week moving average. It's gonna hold, and then you get a weekly counter close below it, and then it starts to curl down a little bit, and then just boom, collapse. But I think there's some silver lining with this. When you switch it to linear scale, it's holding the fib, right? The 50% level right there, and 133.95. It just already wicked through it. You can see this is a very powerful demand zone right here. Very, very powerful. Very long too. Many years, or at least 1 year right there of building support. So there we go. I don't think it's really guaranteed to go back down to the bottom of the cloud or the 100 just yet, unless this 133.95 breaks as support. So I think it's okay. I think it's just wanted to go a little bit deeper than it did previously. And I think the reason why for Solana is I think this is the reason right here. It's kind of like crypto miners. When you have
Ooh.
2,000, 3,000, 4,000% gain, you're going to spend time to cool off, right? This one already had a monster move, and a lot of coins have not already. So from the 2022 bottom, it's basically up 3,000%, 3,800, 3,600, right? So with that said, I think this is why we're seeing weakness. It's kind of like doing what the miners do, just going down to sideways, and it could just start to bleed for a while other ones catch up. So Raul Powell thinks it might be a leader, but I don't think it will be this cycle
I
because
mean,
I guess it already was a leader.
whether he was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it might be oversaturated. Like if you search Solana on X, it's just like a bunch of crap.
Yeah. But
But
I
yeah,
honestly I don't think anything's broken with this chart because it's still higher lows on everything. It still hasn't even touched the 100 or the 200, and that's still that just probably means to me that I think this is what it's going to do. It's just going to do this for maybe some time until it just ready to go higher, and that could be later on in 2025, or it could be going into 2026. I don't know. But the way it behaved right here at a very important level right there at the 175, it's making me believe that this is not going to break out anytime soon. So if you're interested in buying Solana, I think it's just going to go sideways or stay in this range, maybe like the 120s down here, all the way up to the 180s. I think it might just be stuck in that range for some time until it proves me wrong and starts to close back above this 175.
yeah. I actually thought because it's already ran a lot, I actually thought it's gonna end up not making that much high. Maybe I can still see it going to like 1,000, things like that eventually. But I just don't know whether or not it's going to end up leading the market moving forward. I agree. It's just I just didn't expect it to go down, like you said, just breaking level after level. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the leaders are going to be the XRPs, the H bars, the XLM, ADA
yeah,
looks like a leader. The dinosaur coins really.
yeah.
I think they're going to
Which,
be the leaders.
which actually makes me feel that we're still a little early cycle, to be honest. But because ADA, I think ran pretty hard early
Yeah,
cycle last time too.
yeah,
So yeah, and I think even XRP ran a little hard too. It just couldn't break the 0.786. It just kind
yeah,
of but now it broke it. Now it's
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but ADA, like during that sell off yesterday, like it did nothing. It's basically just stayed in the same range for the past 4 weeks. So it's just like one of those things. I don't know. I
yeah,
think it looks really bullish though. A super big, huge breakout, nice back test, nice consolidation going on for its next leg higher.
yeah. Well,
So
I see a couple of folks ask about line. If you want to talk about coin here, and then I think
yeah, I'll talk
MSTR, a
about
couple of
coin.
them asked about like the miners. But yeah,
We can jump into coin, and coin is another one that had a first time for this year, right? The first time to touch the cloud this year, right? And that's pretty bullish since it
right.
broke out. Big rejection at the 886, came back down to the cloud. And can it come back down to the 197, the 702, or even go back down to where this angle is and all this stuff down here? I kept on looking at that today. I'm like, those sneaky market makers could do that. Just slam it down to the 170s just to make people really give up. But I don't know. I think it really has potential to hold this top of the cloud and just try to form a base here. Even when you go to the linear scale fibs here, we can see that it still has a potential to close back above this 50% for the week on Friday, 2:30. Right, it's not too far away. So this could just be a nice wick and liquidity grab, and then start to close above that level, and then try to go higher. So things do look good. These are the charts that I love. Like it doesn't matter what name is on it. I'm not partial to Coinbase, but I just love this chart, right? It's just higher highs, higher lows, all the way up. And it's been back test ever since it started back testing the cloud back in September. It's just been a perfect support. So you got to just stick with the trend, I think, and the trend is your friend. So I think the lower it goes, the better your risk reward on this one. And I have been accumulating some Con-L. And I did see a question about Con-L and TSLL about the decay. And my thoughts on the decay is like if it's in a bull or kind of like a sideways bull or accumulation mode, I don't think it matters too much. It only matters when it's in a bear market, and then the decay will really kick your ass. So that's my opinion. What about you?
I mean, the decay is real because even right now it's been going sideways for like a whole year, and it's been going down, right? So the question is, what do you think is going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months? Do you think it's just another Chopsville? Do you think it's going to be a bear market? If it's just going to be Chopsville, it's going to be bear market, then don't be in CoinL, right? I mean, that's but I think I'll tell you my experience. Like I've done two things. One is I've done T triple Q, and I bought a little bit too early. I bought in the 20s and went down to the teens, and now it's like in the 70s and 80s. Just a couple years later. So like I still hold it. It's been like 2 years. I don't care because I see a macro bull market for the last 2 years. So I just been holding T triple Qs. I don't care about people talking about DK. It doesn't really matter that much to me.
And it
Never
still
really bothers me that much anyway. I guess
it
that's what
still
answers it.
outperformed the
Yeah,
QQQ too, right?
yeah, it did. Yeah, and then another thing that I accumulated, which I sold, was a semiconductor 2x market cap weighted called USD, and I bought it. I think I bought it in like I don't even remember. I think I bought it maybe like around the 20s or teens, and it like plummeted down to single digits, and then it just went all up to like 60s and 80s. It doesn't really matter if you think the market's going to be bullish for the next like 6 to 12 months. Then it could still be a pretty good financial instrument to use, even if it goes down like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70%, which has happened to me. Because I'm too early. And I guess I just don't learn my lesson because I keep getting into these kinds of things. But overall, I still think that as long as you're directionally correct, you're still going to come out okay. But these are extremely like high risk, right? I mean, you're talking about Coinbase by itself is already a very volatile stock. You're talking about like Tesla. You're talking about 2x. That's just added more potential pain. So if you cannot handle it emotionally, you really shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. A lot of people, because we talk about it all the time, they want to do it too, but a lot of them can't even handle the volatility of Tesla or Coinbase by themselves, right? So how
Yeah,
can you handle the volatility of something that's double that? Yeah.
yeah,
But I like the high beta stuff because with high volatility, that's how you create wealth, right? That you got to take the downs with the ups, and the downs create the opportunity for the big percentages in the ups, and that's exactly what Coinbase has done. And I think what I was going to show here is, yeah, every time it got to a resistance zone, it sold off right here. What was that from the top here down here? It sold off 50%, right, from that top. And when it got to this part right here, it sold off like 40%, right? And then now it just came here and it sold off like 40%. So we're in that zone where the sell off is approaching like that normal range. Every time it gets to resistance, it sells off. So, I mean, perhaps next time I was a little bit overzealous. I was buying more Con-L like closer here. I mean, I already have a big coin position that I accumulated a long time ago in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And also I started buying more in the 160s and 180s right here as well. So I have a long-term coin position, but I started buying like Con-L like when coin was up here closer to like 300s and stuff like that. So next time I'll be a little bit more patient on my Con-L. I just got a little bit overzealous. But with that, I'm not really worried because I'm still buying on the way down and lowering my average a lot. And I think it's in that normal range of what it usually pulls back. So I think we could see some kind of consolidation, maybe like something like this, another up here, and then one more leg down to touch the cloud and the 197, right? We could see something like that, and then off to the races. So that's what I'm kind of looking at, something similar that we saw like right here, you know.
yeah.
So
I mean, when Will Chamberlain, is it his name? I don't remember. The basketball star that slept with like 20,000 women. Like I
yes.
think when he decided to want to go for the win, I don't think he was worried about STDs. Like, that's the thing, you worry about decay, yeah, I mean, you're gonna get syphilis, you can get herpes, you can get crabs, you can get, like, these trichomonas, these, like, really weird, like, stuff, you can get all kinds of stuff, but the truth is, if that's what you want, if that's the accomplishment that you want, you might have some weird stuff here and there, and you might have some emotional and physical pain. Some of it may not be treatable, but that's what you gotta do sometimes, and I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
should all be like him. I don't wanna be, but, I just, just food for thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that went off on a tangent. All right.
I have to throw a tangent at one of these shows, like, it always has to be. Anyway, go ahead.
But I see Kim appreciates life. She's in both TSLL and TSLA and doesn't like a bear market. Like, I don't know if I would consider this a bear market, but I guess things move so fast now that bull markets happen in weeks, bear markets happen in weeks, and then bull markets happen in weeks. So I guess, yeah, if you want to consider the 20% rule a bear and a bull, then yeah, I guess Coinbase is in that bear market. But literally, it's only been since December, right? Only a couple of months and it's down like 40%. That's normal now. And this is the life we live in. So if these are the names that you want to choose, you've got to be comfortable with the downside possibilities because it's not going to change. In fact, it might get even more volatile in the future, right? With AI and everything. So just be prepared that if you want these high beta names, you got to handle the good with the bad. As like I say, if you can't love them at their worst, how can you appreciate them at their best?
Yeah, I think if yeah, it's important to sometimes it's important to catch something so you know what safe sex is. Anyway, um,
Do you have
with
a coin chart you want to
all right,
share?
I'm gonna ask a couple other ones, and I'll let you, do whatever you want to do. Obviously, I want to get into MSTR, maybe two miners like Mara and CleanSpark, and then Tesla.
All right. So you want to use me and do it? Yeah.
I do, I do.
Okay.
If you're okay with me using you, I mean,
I'm okay. I'm okay. Yes. So this is a MicroStrategy, and it did two whole fib log scale fib retrace levels. Right, it went down to the 1.414, held for a while, and then finally a quick little dip to the 1.272. And I wasn't sure if I was going to hit it today until it did. And it went down to 243.70. So it did wick through it. But people are looking at this 50-week moving average underneath it. Like, oh, is it going to touch it? Because it never touched it for 2 years since March of 2023 when it broke out right here. It never touched it. Oh, my God, is it going to? Well, I mean, judging by the liquidity or the volatility, I should say, I think anything is possible with MicroStrategy, with Coinbase, with whatever. You can't rule anything out because then when you do that, you just look like an idiot. So yeah, it sure is possible. But with this 245 hitting for the first time, I think it actually has potential to hold that zone. Maybe if it does want to go a little bit lower, that's fine too. But I think what it's doing is just finding its higher low, right? It's just consolidated from March 2024 to September 2024. It consolidated for a while, broke out massively, and that's exactly what it's doing here. So I can see the same thing happen where maybe it can try to start to build a base in this zone now and then get closer to the cloud and then maybe start to climb out of it and then go higher back to the 1.618 and higher. And I don't think MicroStrategy is done. It just was one of those early cycle runners because there's really nothing out there since 2024 that went to the 1.618 log scale extension, right? Except for maybe Palantir. Wait, did Palantir do it? I forget.
I don't even remember. I think it got
Yeah,
close, but I don't think it's there
yeah,
yet. No, I think it got
yeah. I
rejected at
think
1.4 and 4. Yeah,
yeah, I
Kim's
think
got
that's what it was.
rejected at 1.4 and 4. Palantir got rejected at 1.4 and 4, and yeah, it's my strategy is doing pretty amazing right now.
Yeah, so the people that hate it right now are the ones that were buying between these two fibs, the 340 and the 540s, right? Those are the people that were chasing. This is why you should never chase a stock that just broke out because the potential to eventually go back and test support is there. But a lot of people, including myself, don't even have the patience sometimes because people get bored, right? Oh, like I got to buy it. It's just going to go. It's going to go any moment. But not always, right? It sometimes wants to get the liquidity below again first before going higher. But I do love this back test. I'm actually happy it happened because it also closed the gap that people wouldn't shut up about, like, oh, it's going to close it. And yeah, it finally did. So I'm happy about that. Can it go lower to the 220s? Sure, why not? But at this point, what is from 245 to 220? That doesn't mean, that's basically nothing in percentage wise compared to what it's already done. So again, it's just one of those stocks that did a massive breakout up about 400%, and now the correction here today is, there we go, 55%. So that's actually kind of normal, right? A normal retest for MicroStrategy, and I think it has potential now to start to build a base.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good confluence now that backtested the 1.272 and Bitcoin just backtested your 45-degree angle. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's another one that touched an important level for the first time today. Like, there's so many of those today. So many. And I'm just so happy. Happy on a sad day.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
it's like ripping the band-aid off. Like, yes, it finally got there, right? Like, I think that's the way people should feel. Like, they should be more relieved that, okay, now the risk reward is even better now, so I shouldn't really be too worried now.
Yeah, I'm very happy today, Matt. So happy.
Yeah.
Want to
That
touch
you're
into Mara and Clean Spark here real quick and do Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
Mara,
make you do it.
make me do it. All right, Mara, it broke way below my 45-degree angle there. This market symmetry is terrible now. I should just delete it and like act like it never happened right now.
It is
Oh,
what it is.
let me just move it around here.
It is what it is. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah, it is what it is. But am I super worried about this? I don't think I'm too worried about it. I had a fib on there too that I wanted to pull up from a long time ago, like from this little peak up here. And let's see on linear. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, that 908. Like, I was looking at that 908, and I'm like, does it really need to go back down there? Because that 908, when you look at it, it's like, look at this resistance, support,
Mhm.
and it's just floating there now. I'm like, really,
Yeah.
Mara? Do you really need to go back down there? I'm like, I don't know. I think it depends on how it closes the week. If it closes the week below this low here, the 1317, it makes a lower low, then Mara could just continue its trend lower, right? So I'm really going to be watching this 1317 low, and I want to see if it can actually just turn into a wick and close back above and not make a lower low. And if it doesn't make a lower low, then it has potential to hold, because like if you just draw a line like right here around this zone here, we can see around current price there is a resistance here with this wick here, and it almost was a support there, and there was a resistance here. So it does have potential to hold this current zone, but there's way more confluence of support at that 50% level, the 908. So I'm just curious if that really needs to be hit or not. But let's just wait for a weekly close on Friday, because I always wait for confirmation on market structure. And if I don't get a lower low here, if the body of the candle closes above this wick, then I think it still has potential to recover nicely.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't really, think that when the Bitcoin miner is like the hardest thing that I've ever charted.
Yeah, they F with you like so much. They're like, you
They're
see levels like, oh, it's holding perfectly, and then it just rips your heart out.
yeah, they're absolutely like the hardest thing that I ever, like, some of the best charters. And for me, like, I look at a chart, I'm like, okay, I see what it's kind of trying to do, and those things usually work out one way or another for the most part. But like the miner has just been absolutely like incredible. I
I
can
think
show some Mars stuff here. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just
After
gonna
you're
do
done.
them. I
After you're
wanted to
done.
show. I wanted
Yeah.
to show them the 100 monthly moving average though. I wanted to show that because it's at 1312, and it has been a support. So the trend has been. I'm banking on this. The trend has been wick below, close above, wick below, close above. So we got 3 more days left of trading. Wick below, close above, 1312. Right? Let's find out. Let's find out if it just wants another back test of this 100-week moving average. But with that said, Kat, go ahead.
What? Yeah, I mean, I think when I was looking at this, I was like, yeah, I think Mara's probably. probably going to go down here and touch the low Bollinger Band here on the weekly. It did, it did exactly that, really right at the spot. Whenever you break down underneath like the 20-week moving average, if you're not able to hold like some important FIP level over here, it tends to break down, and it did just that, touch the low Bollinger Band. Is this it? Maybe. Sometimes you have a downtrend that goes all the way from an upper Bollinger Band. You have to touch the low Bollinger Band. That's kind of what happened over here before you're able to go up, right? So actually, like, I agree with your analogy. Just rip the Band-Aid off. There's nothing really that bad about doing that. And you also look at unbalanced volume here too. Throughout since November all the way to like February, you can see that the trend has been down, right? Price went all the way from like $30 to 12 and a half, right? The entire time, the unbalanced volume has been going up. So somebody's accumulating behind the scenes. Who's accumulating? Institutions. You can see like big giant spike up, from November all the way to February. And this is not because like the dilution. A lot of people like say it's dilution. It's not, because the institutional accumulation has gone, like, I think last year, about 12 to 18 months ago, it was like 40%. Right now it's like 74.5%. They're still shorting it like crazy, which is the reason why it's like just going down. I don't know whether or not they're shorting it to, like whatever people say, because like convertible notes or whatever. Or maybe they're just shorting it because they're trying to accumulate. I don't know the answer to that. But all I have to say is that like somebody's buying behind the scene. If you're into that kind of stuff of selling close to like bottom of range, then that anyway. I think the same thing can be said about CleanSpark. CleanSpark is a lot more clearer really for the month of January through February. You can see how price has just kind of gone down over the last couple of months, and the unbalanced volume just been going up. So there's a lot of imbalance over here too. Somebody's been buying. If you're looking like who's buying, well, institutions, right? Again, they used to have about 40% institutional accumulate or institutional sharehold just about a year ago, and now it's gone up to like 60%, right? And you can see that during the entire time, when you have this unbalanced volume discrepancy here, there's a huge increase in institutional accumulation. So they're buying behind the scene, maybe doing it through like dark pool or whatever it is that they do. I don't know, but it's just something's pretty fishy about it. So I'm not gonna just like go with the lines and technicals or anything like that anymore. I'm just gonna look at this as like, hey, I still see that the macro still looks pretty good. The Bitcoin looks like it did what it needed to be done. I think IWM it's unfortunately is just sucking, but who knows how long it's going to suck for. But overall macro just doesn't look that bad to me. So the lower it gets, I think the better risk reward ratio it is. And if you sell now, I think somebody's on the other side buying. That's all I have to say about it. So yeah, you have anything to say about CleanSpark, man?
No, the same thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
an easier chart to read, and I think it has better potential of holding support
Yeah.
right now.
I guess I only had like one more thing to say about it. It did break down. Initially, I was kind of looking. A lot of people are looking at the same thing. That it has a little bit of like a triangle kind of look to it. Like it was initially, it was kind of looking like it was gonna hold this like symmetric triangle. They ended up breaking down underneath of that. Does it
Yeah.
mean that it's just gonna plummet down, or does it mean that this is like a deviation? Deviations happen all the time. I'm not really that worried about that. The worst deviation I've seen that got everybody like completely offside is this like Ethereum deviation over here that happened from like November 2016. Like this
Oh yeah.
that was brutal. Like, what the heck were they doing? This is absolutely brutal. Oh man, like that was some huge liquidity grab right there. So
For weeks, for months too. For
yeah,
months, it
yeah.
caught people off guard. Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Break down, where is it gonna end? Like, it went from like $14 to like $6 during just a couple of months. The next thing you know, it just went to like 400. so I think like if you look at technical analysis, yeah, levels are great, levels are cute, but you also have to look at like sometimes volume, and also look at whether or not the whole macro trend is bullish or bearish, where liquidity is going. I think that's also important. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's all I have for that. So
Yeah. We can finish on Tesla.
let's do it.
I'll jump on that.
Let's jump on it.
Jump on it. So yeah, Tesla. it finally touched the 786. It's still below it. I think after hours it went up to like 305, 306 or something, pretty close to that range anyways. But it's still 3 more days for the end of the week. And if you go to linear scale here, the 618 almost got touched too right here. But the good thing is it went tip to tip right here. See, look at that little tip right here and this little tip right here. Yeah,
I'm
it,
sorry,
it's
can you
just
say that again?
their paths crossed. They did some sword fighting, you know.
Okay. Well, I'll clarify that later. But yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. See, if you
Yeah,
just draw a line there and get rid of the fibs, you can see that it was a back test, right?
yeah.
It was a perfect back test. So there we go. Tip to tip. There we go. And with that said, it doesn't need to go back down and really go to that 295, maybe flush down a little bit, get a little bit more liquidity into the 280s. Or people are always talking about this 200-day moving average right here as well. Does it need to go to 277 and touch it? I mean, possibly hasn't touched it in a while, not since August of 2024. But it can just also let enough time pass for the moving average to catch up to price later on in the future too. So it's never a guarantee. So daily moving averages, who knows, right? But the only things I'm really watching is how the week closes for Tesla, and that is closing above this 618, the 295, and more importantly, I would love to see a close above this 306.93 for a perfect back test while kind of retesting a previous resistance for the potential to start to build a base and eventually go higher. But will it go higher immediately? Maybe not. And the reason why is because of the Ichimoku cloud. It still is a little bit far away from it, so it could just consolidate for a while before going higher.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say, in addition to the weekly, I guess look at the monthly too. I think you probably already have a very similar can here. I think
Yeah, but
725.
that conversion line, can it close above 327? God damn it.
Exactly, right? So I was gonna show that too, but just look at the I mean, like, you can also see a 0.786 here, it's just been back testing it. But, one thing here is that this whole thing here also shows pretty decent market symmetry, where this arc over here was just great resistance here for a very long time, broke above, back tested it almost perfectly, broke above, and then used this angle here to propel up a lot higher to the next arc level over here. Was able to finally broke through, got rejected here at the top of the arc, came back down. Where are we at right now? Let's zoom in. Well, if you are talking about the month still has another 3 trading days, maybe we end up closing back above. Maybe this whole thing is just a wake, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just breaks down. Who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. But the symmetry suggests that there is a potential for this to maybe hold, maybe around like the 3 teens or something like that, potentially. The other thing, like you're saying too, was the monthly Ishimoku cloud, where you have the baseline right there. It's around 295.17. Does it have to touch that before going up higher? Maybe. I just, nobody really knows for sure. I think a lot of people are calling that, maybe it's the tip to tip kind of thing, and that's it. Or maybe it just ends up touching the base, or maybe
Just the tip.
yeah, maybe it's just a tip. Who knows? Nobody really knows. But it still looks like a pretty good market symmetry here in terms of what is trying to do, because this whole thing right there has been very parabolic, and it's just simply cooling down over here. I still think that this whole Bollinger Band expansion here means something. I think that it's just kind of gone a little bit too far too fast, and it's just need to kind of consolidate here. Unfortunately, when Tesla it likes to consolidate through price. That's what Tesla likes to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
During COVID, it consolidated through price here. Around August to October 2020, it consolidated through price over here. So that's what Tesla likes to do. So I guess we're just gonna have to see whether or not these support levels hold. And I like where price is at right now. The only issue is, like, there's so many things I want to buy, that it's hard to, like, buy Tesla at 300, but I would if I could. So
Yeah, I mean 300, 295, 290. It's all the same. It doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
did I think it was ever going to get back down there? If you asked me like a month ago, I would say no, right? Because it was kind of following what XRP was doing. But Tesla is in its own world, and people love to attach narratives to Tesla even more than XRP. So yeah, with those narratives, it's just easier for market makers to manipulate people and like, oh yeah, you guys think it's all political. We're just gonna tank the stock and we're gonna steal your shares.
Yeah, 300 is not a bearish number, right? Like, imagine how long we've been waiting to push through 300 here for like a couple of years, right? So we finally get back about 300. We're back testing a 300 level. It's not a bearish thing. Like, look at how it's been a very important level over here for years, right? So how can this be a bearish backtest? Did I think that it had to come down here? No, there's never any absolute, because whenever Tesla takes off, sometimes it just takes off, right? But the fact that it actually comes back and back tests at the current level, even if it goes down further to grab liquidity, that actually makes me more bullish on Tesla, like over the higher time frame wise, I guess is
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
trying.
because it reminds me of like 2020 during COVID, that 60% pullback,
Yeah.
and also there was another pullback. There, yeah, I posted on X. There's three big pullbacks around 40 to 60%.
Yeah.
On the way up, and we got our first 40% pullback just now, and people are scared, but that is basically very bullish for uh, really big growth in the future.
Yeah, but we're gonna sound like idiots talking about it now. So, let's just not
No,
talk
yeah,
about it.
nobody believes it because all they believe is what they see in front of their eyes, and they see a 40% decline already from the 480 top.
Yeah. I almost like to chart exclusively on log. The reason why I do log scales, because like on linear, you actually don't see that market symmetry. Like you lose a lot of the data about how Tesla has behaved in the past. You can't really see cycles. If you do log, you can
You'll see
really see
cycles.
the cycle behavior a lot better, because this is an
Yeah.
exponentially growing asset. And if you don't use lock, you're gonna lose sight of like these crazy 40% drop. Is gonna look absolutely crazy to you, right? It's gonna look like the market's like the bull market's over, right? But if you do log, it gives you a lot better idea in terms of what's happening. The only problem is a lot of people can't handle volatility on log, so they like to draw linear, which is understandable if you don't. But to me, if you're going to be in an exponentially growing asset like Tesla, you should look at log. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think log scale for most charts now makes sense because almost everything is super exponential, you know?
yeah. Well, Tracker, what do you think? I'm just kidding. He's not here.
Yeah. He's been here the whole time.
I hope he's listening. Oh, look at what the Hung Sung is doing right now. Is trying to penetrate the cloud here again. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Penetrate it.
It's
Just the
trying.
tip and penetrate.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I wanted to show too. Did you see this too, Cat, on
What?
Tesla right here?
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see that? That's a trend line people like to draw.
Yay. Well, the scary thing about these trend lines, that there's
Yeah.
just so much energy that like if it breaks down is like really terrible. But
No, but then you just move it down a little bit like that.
oh boy. Okay. All right.
That's
With that
that's
said,
that's how that's how trend lines work. That's why they're so subjective, and I don't like them at all. But
yeah,
I know people love them all the time. They love them.
yeah. I mean, I
So
would do it if it like touches enough points, but if it's just like, yeah, I know it's not a good trend line.
yeah. All right. Well, good show. It was a
Yeah,
good hour and 15 minutes almost.
yeah.
And
We just keep
what is
rambling
what is
on and on. Yeah.
what is the Hang Seng doing? Oh, it's up 400 points, up
Alson's doing
1%.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's trying to do his best impression of Will Chamberlain.
Nice.
I hope they're hedged. I hope they have protection, but it looks like
Yeah.
it's yeah, it looks like a real breakout. I mean, even if it gets rejected at the monthly cloud this month, it's still a pretty decent breakout into the
Yeah.
cloud.
Well, it had a break of structure. If you just look at market structure alone,
Yeah.
The Hang Seng, it had this candle closed above the wick. That's a break of
Yeah.
structure. So you can't be bullish or bearish on that at all.
Yeah.
Cannot.
The only yeah, so if I'm not bearish on the, Hang Seng over the next 6 to 12 months, I'm also not bearish on Bitcoin. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Alright, man. Let you
All right.
go
Well, yeah. See you in the morning, I guess.
in the morning.
Yeah, on X.
Oh, okay,
I'll
yeah,
I'll
sure,
be
yeah.
I'll be stalking you. Yeah.
I'll be making some random post that has, like, nothing to do with the market, and yeah,
Yeah. Pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah,
That's what you do.
that's what I do. Alright.
All right,
Until
guys.
next time, hopefully Tracker, is able to join us next time, but, yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah.
See you then. Bye
Yep,
bye.
take care. Bye.